Bhuva Aravahantarakam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujagam Srijiva Gopalakam Kṛṣṇa Kirtana Gana.
Kumajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha Adunulambito Bujo Kanakabhadatu Sankirtanaya-kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gurudai Pushpavanto Chitra Sangdo Tamono Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhayo Charano Sako Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subalapriyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye.
Shri Gaudiya Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai. Shri Kartik Vrata Ki Jai. Shri Damodara-lila Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Glorious devotees, thank you so much for taking your time to attend this presentation on the Damodara-lila. This will be a 4-part series delivered during the month of Kartik. I know we're starting a little late, but they've designated the month of November as our online time to deliver this series of lectures. So I've been requested to speak on the Damodara-lila, and our approach will begin with obtaining a proper conceptual orientation as to Vraj-lila in general, so that when we view the Damodara-lila, we'll have the proper conceptual orientation as to the unalloyed devotion of the residents of Krishna's eternal abode, Golok, the apricot, and also his manifestations within the material world, the Prakat-lila in Vraj, or the Mathura area. So our approach today will be by looking at the various acharyas who will be major contributors to the dialogue which we will draw from during this presentation. So we should understand the source for Gaudiya Vaishnavas of the observance of Kartik Vrat is coming from the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and there we find a section dealing specifically with the Urja Vrata, or the Kartik, the month of Kartik, or also referred to as the Damodar Vrata. All this is part of the Chaturmasya Vrata. And Srila Gopal Goswami, in service to Sri Sanatana Goswami, has provided a section in the Hari Bhakti Vilas dealing with how Gaudiya Vaishnavas observe this festivity of mercy coming during Srimati Radharani's month. So this Kartik Vrat is extremely important to Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But for us, as Gaudiyas, a Vrata is not a period of extreme austerity, but rather a period of extreme festivity. So as part of the festivities that Sanatana Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami have outlined in their Hari Bhakti Vilas, the daily entrance into the Damodara-lila through song is observed. And that song was taken from the Padma Purana. It's known as the Damodar Astikam, and it was spoken by Sri Satyavrata Muni in the context of a conversation between Narada Muni and the sages headed by Sunaka Rishi. So this is coming to us from the Padma Purana, and then Sanatana, working in conjunction with Gopal Bhatta, have included that particular Astikam by Satyavrata Muni in their section there, dealing with how Gaudiyas observe the Kartik Vrat, or the Urja Vrat. And then, of course, there's also additional instructions in regards to the entirety of the observance of the Chaturmasya Vrat. So in dealing with the Damodar Astikam, which is a condensed 8 stanzas of transcendental nectar, which gives the Gaudiyas a real window into the Leela of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Mother Yaśodā and the other residents of Vraj. In looking at this Astikam, we also are blessed with a commentary on it given by Sanatana Goswami, which is called the Dig Darsini Tika. And this Tika, of course, was in Sanskrit. And Bhakti Prajan Keshava Goswami Maharaj translated Sanatana's Tika into Bengali, and then it was further translated by his disciple, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, into Hindi. And his disciples, Narayan Goswami Maharaj's disciples, gave us an English translation. In addition to that, Narayan Maharaj also provided his own Dig Darsini Vritti, which is full of much rasa tattva, or personal insight, which can't be directly traced to, or at least I was not able to trace a lot of the narrative there from his Dig Darsini Vritti to specific places where the same insights were given by other acharyas. So they may be just within the tradition, they may be his own unique revelation. That's the interesting thing that we see in regards to the Damodara-astakam of Sri Satyavrata Muni, because it's so central to the Kartik Vrat, and has been, I mean, every day it's chanted by all the Gaudiyas, and therefore, because the Gaudiya tradition is so much, has invested so much and drawn so much from this astakam, there's tremendous insight into the Damodara-lila through it, and much has been churned in that ocean of transcendental sound vibration, and from that ocean, so many different revelations in regards to the Damodara-lila specifically, and Vraj Bhakti, and the mood of the Lord's eternal associates there generally. All that has come out in so many different ways from our various Gaudiya acharyas. So what I'll be doing in this presentation is just giving us a cursory overview of some of those amazing insights that are coming from the Damodara-astakam. And we're going to be doing that through the lens not only of the astakam, but also of the Gopal Champu of Srila Jiva Goswami, dealing specifically with the Damodara-lila itself. So I'll be utilizing a lot of what can be drawn from both the commentaries on Satyavrata Muni's astakam, and also what Jiva Goswami gave us there, and also the other commentaries on that section of the Srimad Bhagavatam dealing with the Damodara-lila. So there's a lot, and really this subject is so deep and so comprehensive in both theology and rasa tattva that in 4 classes we will just be able to do an overview. But that does not mean that we will not dive into a lot of the detail of the Leela itself. So we're excited to make this presentation, and we will proceed here. We see here many of the luminaries from which we've gained some insight, and I've just mentioned some of them. We've also listened to and encourage everyone participating in hearing this presentation to take some time and listen to the 8 lectures delivered by Swami Tripurari. Those were delivered in the fall of 2016 on the Damodara-astakam. Those lectures were given actually at Sagrahi's Ananda Ashram, and they deal specifically with Satyavrata Muni's astakam itself, but they're just he gives wonderful insights there also. So if during this month you can also listen to that series of 8 lectures, you'll find those very spiritually nourishing. So we've drawn from those, we've drawn from the Gopal Champu, and we'll be drawing out some of that and presenting it. And we've drawn from the Bhagavat commentaries of Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswamis in their Vaishnava Tosanis on that section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're going to go into this. We're going to enter into this with a reading as presented in the Gopal Champu by Snigdha-kanta. And Snigdha-kanta is relating to the residents of Vraj, Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. He's relating the Damodara-lila to all the residents of Vraj. And we're going to start in that narrative with the specific songs that Snigdha-kanta sings to the residents that Mother Yaśodā was singing when she was churning the milk on the morning before the whole Leela unfolded. So as you know, Krishna was sleeping and Mother Yaśodā was churning the milk to make butter, make yogurt, make butter, and she was singing songs. That's all we have in the Bhagavatam narrative. So Srila Jiva Goswami, through his Gopal Champu, has elaborated on what Rajaswari Sri Yaśodā was actually singing. And those verses go as follows. She's basically recounting Krishna's earlier pastimes. She sings there, "Oh, my darling son, you are the crest ornament of the dynasty of Gokulapati Sri Nanda Maharaj. The Vrajavasis must have performed greatly pious acts to witness you bringing joy to their hearts. Your activities delight the eyes of all. You rouse the joy of the cowherd community by the blissful festival of your birth and by the recent and auspicious act of killing Putana. You have spread the glory of your father, the king of Gokula, far and wide. After eliminating Sāṅkhya, who made everyone lose all composure, you were blessed by the auspicious rituals of the Brahmanas. Later, Sri Nanda's worshipful deity, Paramātmā, returned you to us after destroying Trinavarta along with his storm. O lotus-eyed boy of incomparable piety, you used to crawl about on your tiny hands and knees in our charming courtyard. You have shown great expertise in playing various games and demonstrating many varieties of dance. When you used to grab the tails of the calves, they would run away, dragging you along. At those times, your gorgeous form was pulled through the dust and cow dung, which gave you an even more enchanting splendor. While playfully quarreling with the elderly gopis, you would frivolously increase everyone's confusion through your antics. O Krishna, since I am your mother, forever continue to expand my already boundless joy. Quickly grow healthy and strong and fulfill our desire by delighting our eyes with your many lively pastimes. At first, you cause bewilderment by displaying the three worlds within your mouth. Later, however, it was understood that by doing so, you confirm the existence of Lord Vishnu's spiritual illusory potency, Vaishnavi Maya. O Krishna, may your body be free from aging and death, and may you become the bestower of bliss by serving Sri Hari. Interestingly enough, Yaśoda's songs, as related in the Gopal Champu, end there. And those songs follow very closely verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam narrative up to the point of Krishna's eating dirt. And we find there that this is really an entranceway for us into understanding the nature of Raj-lila as given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we are going to take some time now to really set the philosophical groundwork that's going to allow us to completely explore these leelas in a very comprehensively amazing way. We need to have the proper conceptual orientation, and I have chosen an entranceway now that will hopefully set that groundwork. Now we're going to go from the Gopal Champu to the Bhagavad Purana itself. And we're in the 8th chapter here of the 10th canto. And we'll begin here. Krishna has been accused of eating dirt at this point. So we've gone from the songs of Mother Yaśoda singing, and we're taking a little bit of a step back because that's where her song ended, where she spoke about the amazing vision that she was given. So we're going to go to the section of the Bhagavatam where that's dealt with comprehensively. And from there, we're going to enter a little bit into a philosophical basis and then proceed more into the Leela and the Astikam. So the Bhagavatam states there, Lord Shri Krishna replied, "My dear mother, I have never eaten dirt. All my friends complaining against me are liars. If you think they are being truthful, you can directly look into my mouth and examine it." When Yaśoda challenged Krishna, "If you have not eaten earth, then open your mouth wide." Krishna, endowed with the highest powers and with the highest sweetness, exhibiting pastimes like a human child, not completely giving up his powers, opened his mouth. Excuse me. Some commentary here on that particular verse from Jiva. His aiśvarya thus displayed the universe within him in order to nourish Yaśoda's prema with astonishment, and in order to help her by making his words true when he said he did not eat dirt. By showing that everything exists within him, and by producing a differing mood to ease Yaśoda's anger, In the pastime with Trinavarta, his aiśvarya made him heavy. It should be understood that his aiśvarya, with its inconceivable power to fulfill his desires, reaches its highest perfection in these acts. Now, this is going to be unpacked a little bit, but I wanted to share with you this particular commentary from Jiva Goswami's Lagu Vaishnavi Tosani, because Jiva is saying here that it should be understood that his aiśvarya, Krishna's aiśvarya, with its inconceivable power to fulfill his desires, reaches its highest perfection in these acts. So this really requires us to enter into some contemplation. Wait, in Vraj, Krishna doesn't really display his aiśvarya that much. But Jiva's saying, no, really, in Vraj and his Vraj-līla, he displays his aiśvarya to its highest perfection. And the aiśvarya, the Lord's amazing potencies, are distributed there to the highest perfection. In what way? Because they serve to enhance the Prema Bhakti, the loving exchange between Krishna and all of his associates of Vraj, in Vraj. So we can see the aiśvarya here is serving Krishna by taking the situation and by letting Mother Yaśodā see in Krishna's mouth all this aiśvarya, all the powers that the Lord has to make unlimited universes and to be all-encompassing, so much that she even saw herself there looking into his mouth. So we can just imagine, it's going to be unpacked a little bit further here, but all that she saw there. So the aiśvarya potency was serving the Prema Bhakti, the loving exchange between Yaśodā and Krishna at that time. As Jiva writes, producing a differing mood to ease Yaśoda's anger. So to ease her anger, that are you a liar? Are you lying to me? Is Balaram lying to me? I don't understand. One of the two of you both of you can't be giving me the truth. So you can imagine, as a mother, she's kind of upset. Balaram and all of your boyfriends have accused you of eating dirt, and you're saying you didn't. And you're calling all them liars. So you can understand, as a mother, she has to be a little upset with her son to know what really is going on. Let us move on. To the same verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, looks at it a little differently. And he writes in his commentary, Krishna said, I did not eat dirt. To tell a lie for fear of being beaten is natural for a child, and it nourishes the vātsalya bhav, parental affection. Vātsalya and other rasas spring from prema, and prema rests within a devotee's heart. It arises in the devotee because of Krishna's inherent affection for his devotees. Bhakti vātsalya. The Lord's quality of bhakti vātsalya is greater than any of his other spiritual qualities, such as purity, mercy, or truthfulness. As Krishna's telling a lie springs from his bhakti vātsalya, it is not a fault. Rather, it is the crown jewel of all great qualities. So we can see Srila Vishwanath is looking the same verse from a different perspective. And it's saying in this verse, we can see the love Krishna has for his devotees. And that love is coming out in this particular way, that he's entering into this dialogue, and he's apparently, or is, lying to his mother, but that lie is nurturing the loving relationship between them. And he's saying that of all the Lord's qualities, of all the Lord's different powers and opulences, that this Bhakti Vatsalya, it's greater than any of the others. And here we can see, it's interesting the way in the commentary he said, such as purity, mercy, and truthfulness. So when we think of spiritual qualities, we think of all these, these high things. But here, Krishna's lying to nurture Bhakti Vatsalya, to exhibit his Bhakti Vatsalya, to nurture the prema between him and his mother. That certainly is higher than any other morality, because it's nurturing their loving relationship. So even his lying, if it is used to nurture the prema bhakti, the Bhakti Vatsalya, is higher than other spiritual qualities. So another interesting perspective from Srila Vishwanath. Now we go back to the Bhagavatam proper. And Sukadev writes, when Krishna opened his mouth wide by the order of Mother Yaśodā, she saw within his stomach all moving and non-moving entities, bhuva loka, and all directions, along with mountains, islands, oceans, the surface of the earth, wind, fire, moon, and the stars. She saw the planetary systems, water, light, air, ether, and ahankar, mahatattva, and prakriti. She saw the presiding deities of the senses. She also saw the senses, the mind, the tanmantras, and the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. She saw the time, the jiva, the tendency to transform, karma, and desires, as well as various bodies. When he opened his mouth and she saw herself and her son, when he opened his mouth and she saw herself and her son along with Vraj, she became doubtful. She was bewildered. The commentary goes on. When Yaśodā understood the truth, the Supreme Master, by the influence of the internal potency, spread mercy by having her develop the deepest affection for her son. Immediately forgetting that Krishna had shown the universal form within his mouth, Mother Yaśodā took her son on her lap, feeling full affection in her heart as previously. So we can see that immediately Yogamaya perceived some distress or some concern in what the vision of the universe within Krishna's mouth was creating, the emotions that it was creating. And those emotions were stifling her loving relationship with Krishna. And therefore, they were withdrawn. So much so that even seeing what she had just seen was removed from her mind. And she could immediately return to feeling her full affection for Krishna as she had before. And now we come to the key verse for our philosophical entrance into the nature of Raj Bhakti. So Sukadeva Goswami writes there in the 10th canto, 8th chapter, 45th verse, after relating this amazing display of aiśvarya and amazing interaction between Krishna and Yaśodā. He writes there, the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are studied through the three Vedas, the Upanishads, the literature of the Sāṅkhya Yoga, and other Vaishnava literature. Yet Mother Yaśodā considered that Supreme Person her ordinary child. We'll begin our entrance into establishing this firm conceptual orientation and groundwork from where we will be standing on a solid ground to enter into the Damodara-lila and through the narrative itself and through the Damodara Astakam of Satyavrata Muni. Vishwanath writes in his commentary to this verse, Yasoda's love remained unrestricted in spite of seeing Krishna's powers and hearing about the Lord's powers from the scriptures such as the three Vedas, which glorify Krishna as the yajña puruṣa, Lord Viṣṇu, the personal beneficiary of all sacrifice. Krishna is glorified as the puruṣa, Supreme Lord, in the Sāṅkhya śāstras, the Paramātmā in the Yoga-sūtras, and as Bhagavān in the Pañcarātra writings, Sātvata. As the fruitive workers think of the Lord as the yajña puruṣa according to the Vedas, similarly, Yaśodā thought of the Lord as her son due to her vātsalya praying. Just as Krishna gives results to the karmīs who worship him, he reciprocated with Yaśoda's maternal affection. But Krishna could not respond fully to the amount of affection offered by Yaśodā. Here's the key. One should take this verse as a paribhāsa-sūtra of Kṛṣṇa-līlā. As a lamp sits in one place in a dark room and lights up the whole room, so that statement in the scriptures, which can reveal the meaning of all scriptures or regulate the meaning of the scriptures, is called a paribhāsa-sūtra. This verse stands as a regulator for all of the pastimes related to aiśvarya, displays of power and opulence, shown during Krishna's Kumar and Kishora, childhood and youthful ages in Mathura, Kurukshetra, and elsewhere. Before we speak, I want to share other commentaries on this same verse. First, let's look to Jiva's commentary. Yaśodā is supremely fortunate. The Lord is praised in the three Vedas ultimately as the antaryami of karma and upasana. He is praised in the Upanishads as the greatest Brahman by qualities and swarup. He is praised in theistic Sāṅkhya and Yoga, meaning the Puranas, as Bhagavān. He is praised in the Pañcarātra Agama scriptures, Sātvata, which are filled with worship of the Lord. The Agamas as well as the Puranas are included in this list because they are accepted as Angas of the Vedas. The Lord is glorified to some little extent in these works, since the Lord is actually unlimited. She considered that Lord to be her son, caring for him affectionately as a mother. This is greatly astonishing. The meaning is this, and Jiva now says, these ordinary people who worship Krishna as the son of Yaśodā are superior to all the jnanis. Elsewhere, the superiority of this love is mentioned. By my dear king, the supreme person, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandavas and the Yadu dynasties. In this way, with an abundance of splendor caused by Krishna, they played with him, though he is pure consciousness or happiness known as Brahman for the jnanis, the supreme lord for the devotees with Dasyabhav, and an ordinary human child for those covered by material illusion. If this is so for the general devotees, what to speak of those like Yaśodā and Nanda? Thus, the conclusion stated becomes even stronger. And we'll conclude the commentary section on this Paribhāsa-sūtra of Kṛṣṇa-līlā by looking to the Bhaktivedanta Tika. Srila Prabhupada writes in his commentary on this verse, the absolute truth is realized in three features: Brahmeti, Paramātmā, Bhagavān Sabyate. But she is in such ecstasy that she does not care to understand what is Brahman, what is Paramātmā, or what is Bhagavān. Bhagavān has personally descended to become her beloved child. Therefore, there is no comparison to Mother Yaśoda's good fortune, as declared by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramya Kachid Upasana, Vrajavadu Vargena Ya Kalpita. That's from the Chaitanya Manjusa. Vrajavadu, the gopis, the damsels of Vrindavan, they worship Krishna in the topmost loving affairs. One may be a karmi, a jnani, a yogi, and then a bhakti or prema bhakta. But the ultimate stage of realization is prema bhakti, as actually demonstrated by Mother Yaśodā. So we see here that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given the most profound insight into Raganuga Bhakti. We as Gaudiyas, of course, are unique. The Gaudiya tradition is unique because we see the entire Bhagavat Purana through the Paribhāsa-sūtra as presented in the 3rd chapter. Iti chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavān Swayam. That all these various manifestations of divinity, all these avataric descents are all coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, and no matter, as Prabhupada says in his commentary, how you're looking, how you envision the absolute reality, as stated in the Bhagavatam, Brahmeti, Paramātmā, Bhagavān iti sabjate. Mother Yaśodā, she doesn't care for any of that. She is only caring for Krishna, her son. So this second Paribhāsa-sūtra is the key to entering into the deepest understanding of Vraj Bhakti. And that Vraj Bhakti, as Prabhupada is pointing out in his commentary, there's no comparison to the good fortune of those residents of Vraj, as declared personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in pointing out the selfless love that the gopis have for Krishna. And of course, by bringing this out in his commentary, Prabhupada, of course, is extending that to all of the Lord's eternal associates in Vraj. So, especially by the Yaśodā. If we can maintain this kind of a spiritual insight, then our immersion into the Leelas of Vraj Bhakti will be much more spiritually fulfilling. That we'll be able to understand that everything there is ruled by, not by all the desires and the fulfillment of both material and spiritual desires that are put forth in all the various scriptures. All the various scriptures are putting forth all these different conclusions regarding the ultimate relationships, sambandha, the best practices, abhideya, and the topmost attainment, prayojan. But as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are blessed, especially during this Kartik Vrat, by Srimati Radharani herself, with the unique ability coming through the dispensation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Golokare Premadan, Harinam Sankirtan. He came to break open the storehouse of the most intimate, loving relationships of the Supreme Lord, and they're off the scriptural map. It's hard to even get other Vaishnav traditions to accept that there is a hierarchy in all the different manifestations of the Godhead. So when we as Gaudiyas take this Krishna-stu Bhagavan Swayam, this paribhāsa-sūtra, as being the indicator of the hierarchy of the different manifestations of the divinity and the supreme position of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, and specifically the supreme manifestation of the Lord's abode in Vraj, in Vrindavan. When we look and we as Gaudiyas accept these things, the Paribhāsa-sūtra, and if we can see the entirety of all the philosophical conclusions given in the Bhagavad Purana, which Jiva Goswami has so clearly put forth as the topmost understanding of spirituality, even exceeding what other Vaishnav traditions have had historically accepted. The Prasthana Trayi, comment, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the topmost Upanishads, and Vedanta Sutra. These three, and the commentaries of the great acharyas on those constitute the spiritual conclusions that make up the various Vaishnav sampradayas. And then we have the ingress of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his dispensation to suffering humanity, and all of a sudden, the true position of the Bhagavad Purana rises up from that. And all of a sudden, the Bhagavad Purana is seen as the Gaudiyas, as superseding even what all the other Vaishnava traditions have accepted as the topmost pramana or evidence regarding spiritual reality and spiritual revelation. So we go by that key. We study the Bhagavad Purana using that key, Krishna Stu, Bhagavan Swayam. We see all the verses. Jiva Goswami has written extensively on how that should be employed in his Krishna Sandarbha. And then we come to this extraordinary manifestation of mercy as coming during the Kartik Vrat, the Urja Vrat from Srimati Radharani herself. We go even deeper. We're allowed entrance even deeper than that into a most intimate key for entering into the understanding of Vraj Bhakti. That the love that we can observe, and really the loving exchanges, the beginning of the observation of those exchanges is starting here at this section in the 10th canto. Prior to this, Krishna dispatched with some demons. But now, once we come to this particular Leela narrative, the Damodara-lila narrative, we start to see how this loving exchange between mother and son, how Vatsalya Ras is played out in a very profound way. And it begins here with this amazing vision. And all of a sudden, Yaśodā sees that and it's just, it has to be withdrawn. It has to evaporate from her mind, because such a transcendental vision, which anybody else would nurture. For anybody else, such a vision as Mother Yaśodā saw in Krishna's mouth, it would nurture an amazing spiritual revelation. And it simply confuses Mother Yaśoda's loving relationship with Krishna, and it's withdrawn. We saw a little bit of a clue of that in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna also said, I've seen enough. Could you please just, and it's explained by the commentators there that even that display of aiśvarya to Arjuna was not really for him, but it was for the benefit of others. So I hope that has given us some groundwork. I realize it's not the full time, but if we entered directly into the Damodar Astakam and then just barely started, I think it would be better to begin it comprehensively in our next class. So I thank you so much for your kind association, and I will take any questions if there are any. And if not, I offer you my most humble obeisances. Vanchakalpatubhyascha, Kripasinabhyevacha, Patitanam Pamanebhyo Vaishnavijya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Dulal Chandra Prabhu ki jai.
प्रेमामृतं मनिधि